Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch. Welcome aboard! That's right, it is Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. This is live stream 987. If you're not overly familiar with this show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And normally we will take a first look at a game, either a board game, role-playing game, what have you. Every once in a while, I'll actually even do a live review here on the show, but that doesn't happen too often. So tonight is a Wargame Wednesday. That's right. It's been a little bit of time since we had a Wargame Wednesday. Well, strap in because tonight we are going to take a first look at Downfall, Conquest of the Third Reich from GMT Games. This is originally designed by the late, great Chad Jensen, and then John Butterfield stepped in to wrap up the design. So very interesting here. Anywho, so if you are hanging out live because you want to check out the first look, the unboxing of Downfall, let me point out, we always tackle the tabletop gaming news first around here. So if you are watching live, just kick back, put your feet up, relax. Hey, it's Wednesday, it's hump day, halfway to the weekend already. It'll be probably about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we get into the unboxing. So just relax and enjoy. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, if you are kicking it 30 minutes or more after the show ends, and you want to jump past the tabletop gaming news so you can get stuck in with Downfall, you can do that. There will be timestamps. They are found in the show notes, or depending on what device you may happen to be watching this on, could be right there in the timeline of the video itself. So there is that. Should also mention, since this is a live show, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, maybe you want a closer look at something in Downfall, as long as you have been a subscriber for at least 48 hours, you can take part in chat. So by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is the Madman. Welcome. Yes, our friend the Madman, one of our chat moderators, is hanging with us, as is Kathy Evans and Jep Sandhu, who says, I am bad. Don't know what you're referring to as far as I am bad, as in am bad. So in chat it says you are bad. Okay. Anywho, we are going to discuss some things that have been going on behind the scenes at the Duct Tape Studios in just a little bit. I'm not going to talk about it too long, but some pretty wild things. Gotta say, pretty wild. Last night, I was stunned by something that took place. I'll talk about that in just a bit. All right, let's jump on into the news because early next year is going to see the release of Gnome Hollow, which is from WWII Games. Here's what I know. Gnome Hollow is a beautiful Euro game featuring spatial tile placement and worker placement mechanics in which players grow a tabletop garden of mushrooms and flowers. Players place tiles to develop rings of valuable mushrooms. Once completed, they harvest each mushroom, choose bonuses, and eventually carry their mushrooms to market to sell for the shiniest treasures available in the hollow. Player boards automatically calculate scores while simultaneously offering strategic decisions. This whimsical game is watercolored to celebrate the full beauty of nature. Since the beginning of time, gnomes have been the humble caretakers of nature. In secret, they emerge from their underground homes to maintain meticulous rings of mushrooms, known to the human folk as fairy rings. But the work must be done quickly because as soon as the mushroom path is finished, the mushrooms are ready for picking. Who will be the cleverest gnome and harvest the most mushrooms by the end of the season? Gnome Hollow is a spatial tile placement, worker placement game where you grow a tabletop garden of mushrooms and flowers. Each piece is a hand-painted watercolor that captures the whimsical feel of gnomes and nature. Turns are deceptively simple. Players place tiles into the garden and move a gnome to take a single action on their turn. But placing a tile and taking an action can create play combinations that are intensely satisfying. Quickly place tiles and develop rings of valuable mushrooms. Once a ring is completed, they harvest each mushroom and eventually carry them to market to sell for the shiniest treasures available. Gnome Hollow is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in around 45 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $49.99 when it arrives in stores in early 2024. I thought this looked kind of interesting. I like the art style. I definitely thought that was pretty cool. And if you follow the gaming gang, you know that I like tile laying games. I have a soft spot for them. So there you go. All right, let's see who else we got in chat. Royce is with us. Thank you very much. Royce disagrees with Jep Santu and says, I'm good. I don't know. I'm kind of chaotic neutral, actually, I think. Russell Higgins is hanging with the gang, as is Sarah D. Yeah, Sarah D is with us, another of our chat moderators. So howdy, y'all. And Sarah says, Jeff, you missed an amazing opportunity to start singing some Michael Jackson. Sigh. I don't sing Michael Jackson. I am not a Michael Jackson fan. I never actually was. Even when, before all that came out about his personal life and such, I just, I didn't hate the music, but it was like, it just wasn't my thing. Just gotta say, so I don't think I'd be singing any Michael Jackson. That's why I probably I didn't even think of it, I'm bad. You know it. Move right along. Let's talk about some role-playing game news because now available in print and PDF is Tales of the Smoking Worm issue number 7 from Blind Visionary Publications. It's kind of a funny name for a company, right? Blind Visionary. And Exalted Funeral. Here's the scoop. Tales from the Smoking Worm is a fanzine inspired not just by the role-playing game Dungeon Crawl Classics, but also by the wondrous fanzines of the past 40 years. While Tales focuses on DCC, the material produced can easily be translated into any old-school Renaissance system, or even 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. The 7th issue contains 7 features, usable by both players and judges. There's Hero Crawl Classics. James Michael Spahn brings you the DCC variant you didn't know you needed, but will love exploring. In this article are all the random tables you need to modify your game to mimic the more heroic fiction of Appendix N. This is a massive article and full of crunch for players and judge alike. There's a new patron, Caven, or Canv, CAENV, a whole new patron. Canv is devoted to riddling through the mysteries of the universe and helps those who hurtle through darkened corridors of intrigue, deception, and betrayal to navigate a very dangerous world. Inspired by the darker areas of Appendix N and a healthy dose of modern television thrown in for good measure, this rather large article covers all the strangeness of Canv in one place. And then we've got patron missions. Since we've got a new patron here in issue 7, they thought they'd include the patron missions here as well. 7 short missions for adherents of Canv to undertake when they owe their patron after invoking assistance. This is the 3rd installment of an ongoing series of missions for adherents of different patrons. I believe in one of the issues, Cthulhu is a new patron. There's also Culpepper's Herbal, more herbs for your game. This time, they feature 2 new herbs, balm and barley. Make the most of your wilderness you travel through. Onward Retainer, starring the Legion, the 7th installment in the adventuring comic in school style, brought to you by Joel Phillips. Angsty Warlocks. Got a warlock who doesn't want to play nice with their patrons? A short piece of advice for judges stuck in the situation where characters aren't living up to their end of the patron bargain. And lastly, there's Worm Words, a word puzzle for all the Gygaxian words in the 7th issue. This way, a definition is never in doubt. Also included are the answers to the worm words from issue 6. This 54-page softcover zine is available over at Exalted Funeral for $20. Sweet. That sounds kind of interesting. And I should also mention that issue 7 of the Smoking Tales from the Smoking Worm is not out in PDF over at Drive-Thru RPG, but the first 6 issues are. So I would take a guess issue number 7 should be arriving shortly. And Blind Visionary Publications is currently in the midst of a Kickstarter to kickstart, I believe, issue 9 of the zine. So if you are interested, you may want to take a peek at that. See, we've got a few more folks popping into chat. I do believe Testy Trekkie is with us. Good to see you. William Aarons is here as well, saying hello from Canada. And Kevin R. Smith is hanging with the gang. Anthony Good has just popped in too. I think I already said hello to Russell Higgins. He's been here for a bit. All righty, moving right along. Landing in December is a new solo adventure for Call of Cthulhu from Chaosium Inc. Here's the latest on Alone Against the Static, a 1990 solo Call of Cthulhu adventure. Alex and Charlie believe that a secluded weekend getaway in the Black Hills of South Dakota is just what they need to reinvigorate their marriage, but exist in the forgotten places of the world. Will they survive alone against the static? Set in the Dakota Black Hills in the early 1990s, Alone Against the Static is designed for a single player, no keeper required. You will choose to play as either Alex or Charlie, each of which have their own strengths, weaknesses, and choices to make. No 2 playthroughs will be the same. Alone Against the Static introduces the log sheet to the world of solo Call of Cthulhu play. Track choices you make, secrets you discover, and items you'll find that aid or hinder your adventure with a separate sheet designed with spoiler-free text. The log sheet can also be used as a list of achievements. Can you unlock everything there is to discover? Included in Alone Against the Static is a new Mythos entity detailed for use in your own Call of Cthulhu scenarios. You can expand the experience beyond solo play by taking this entity into scenarios of your own making, perhaps even using Alone Against the Static as a prelude for your players. This 106-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $29.99 when it lands December 1st. Now, I will point out, I do actually have a copy of Alone Against the Static in PDF. I am checking to see if, well, I don't know. I had thought about maybe doing the review myself, but I'm kind of like, I don't think Sammy's done a Call of Cthulhu review in quite a while. So I touched base with her to see if she would like to review it. I got to be honest, I don't know if I will see the hardcover or not, because from what I have seen, it looks like the PDF is being sent out to reviewers, and there is actually an embargo. Yes, there is an embargo until November 29th on any reviews. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Kevin King has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Kevin. Final news piece. There is a fantastic Humble Bundle, which is currently on offer, which includes a slew of 5e Dungeons & Dragons releases from third-party publishers, and I've got the deets on the deal. Elevate your 5e game. Searching for ways to spice up your 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons game? Look no further than this bundle packed with a treasure hoard of 5e compatible source books, adventures, and indispensable game aids from some of the finest publishers in the game. Stick some new threats on your Seen It All players with the Tome of Beasts 3. Send them on a journey they'll never forget with Necropolis, a grand adventure based on the work of none other than Gary Gygax, the father of role-playing games. Broaden their horizons with a smorgasbord of new player options with the Tome of Heroes. Pay what you want for this vast library of over 70 books, valued at more than $1,000, and help support International Medical Corps. You'll find offerings from Necromancer Games, Pace Setter Games, Nerd Anarchy, Frog God Games, as well as our friends over at Kobold Press, and more. Now, you can jump aboard this bundle for as little as a single solitary dollar, or you can go all in with a donation of $25 or more to score over 70 PDFs. These savings run through December 2nd, and your donation helps, once again, the International Medical Corps. Very, very cool. Yes. Me likey. And I got to point out, just 2 of these PDFs, if you were to purchase them separately, as an example, Tome of Beasts 3, if you bought that PDF, I think you're right there at about $25. So if you got, say, Tome of Beasts 3, and then there is also the Layers book for just got those 2, it's more than $25. So add in an additional 68. I think all together, it's 73 PDFs, if I remember correctly. So, wow. It's like, holy jamoli, $25 for all of this 5e third-party goodness. Do not miss out. Alrighty, that is it for the news tonight. Rock through that pretty quickly. So, of course, I did mention Drive-Thru RPG earlier, although not really anything that, well, I guess you can pick up Tales from the Smoking Worm issues 1 through 6 over at Drive-Thru RPG. But don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller Vault, or even Wargame Vault, please stop by thegaminggang.com. First, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, then by all means, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. And you can always buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Yum, 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 yum. Yes. And thankfully, many of you out there do utilize paypal.me/thegaminggang, as well as the banner ads for the One Bookshelf sites. Much appreciated. So, speaking of appreciation, as I see Deja Vu has joined us in chat. So last night I was talking about how the laptop I used to do all the video editing, I use it to do all the Photoshop stuff to create these slides that we were just looking at, as far as the news pieces, things like that. I do basically just about everything outside of streaming this show or shooting video down here in the Duct Tape Studios. So we have Brandon Leon here. Popped in, says, stupid iBozo. Okay. Don't know. I have no idea. Seems like we've got a couple of folks hanging out in chat that just are not fans of the show. Although, why they'd be hanging out in chat so they can make assholes out of themselves, I don't know. Especially since they'll end up getting bounced when the banhammer pops out. Although I don't know what the deal is. Anyway, it's probably that same person from earlier. Bye. So long, Brandon Leon. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Roy says they're playing troll-themed games. Whatever. You know, it's funny, too, because it's been a long time since we had to drop that banhammer, which I see the madman jumped at that. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think we had somebody about a week ago, 2 weeks back. I think Flaming Huron was the one who axed them. Speaking of, Flaming Huron's with us. He is the third of our chat moderators who happen to be hanging out tonight. Anyway, so before I was so rudely interrupted by someone who doesn't even know how to insult anybody correctly, for crying out loud. Anyway, so I was talking about how that laptop crapped out and how it really puts the future of the outlet in jeopardy. It really does, for a multitude of different reasons. So I finished up last night's show, cut upstairs, because once again, as I pointed out before, the Duct Tape Studios is actually just part of an unfinished basement. That's it, you know. Okey-dokey. Anyway, so I went upstairs and I was doing my last little bits that I usually do as far as like checking the video and stuff like that. So now I'm using my phone to do that. And then I see I've got these emails. And wow, I was just gobsmacked by some of the things that some of the folks who follow the channel. I will name the people, but I'm sure they probably don't want me to like talk about the donations that they made towards this laptop, because I figure it'll probably run about $1,000. And I'll tell you what I'm looking at when I'm done here. So all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, there's $350 in donations. So I know Hector Strafford had already made a donation through like the super chat kind of thing on YouTube. But got the Madman, Tessie Trekkie, Scott B. Smith. If I remember correctly, I thought there was something from Kevin King off the top of my head. I seem to recall that. So I was like, holy shit. Thank you so much, everybody. I was getting a little teary-eyed last night. I was like, oh my God, they like me. Oh my gosh, they like me. Because, you know, the reality is, most of the time I feel somewhat unappreciated doing this. Especially when we have jackasses pop into chat and, you know, make idiot comments that make absolutely no sense. Plus, I don't understand. It's kind of like, why would you subscribe to the channel if you don't like it? It's like, okie doke. So anyway, wow, I was like just blown away. So I had been already taking a look at a possible replacement, and I'm looking at picking up a Lenovo Legion 5 Slim because Best Buy currently has it on sale for like $1,100. I think it sells for $1,500. But I did see something indicating that it's for Black Friday week, it's actually going to be on sale for $1,000. And it is a Ryzen 7 processor. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's got the NVIDIA 4060, the RTX 4060, which has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. The weird thing, though, is, and I don't know why every manufacturer does this, they short you on the solid-state drive. Almost all of these companies have like 512 gigabyte solid-state drives in their laptops. And it's like, yeah, okay, I guess if you have them custom build one for you, you can spec it out with a bigger solid-state drive. But I was like, okay, so there was another laptop, another Lenovo that I read good things about and saw some videos that talking about how it was really good. And that was currently on sale for $700, but not as much RAM, only 8 gigs. Personally, I prefer 32, but and the video card wasn't as good. So what I was thinking is go for the Slim, the Lenovo Legion 5 Slim. And then all I really got to do is put in another solid state drive. Because the other thing that's important about this laptop is you can upgrade it. So you can upgrade the RAM, you can upgrade the solid state drives, and there are slots for 2. I think you can even upgrade the Wi-Fi card. So anyway, heard really good things about it. So that is what I'm hoping I can pull off. So we will find out. Kevin R. Smith says, also, it's not an off-brand that only sells their stuff through Walmart, like the laptop I had, which I loved. I really did. And I got a smoking deal for it back in the day because, as I had mentioned before, it seemed like Walmart was trying to get into the gaming laptop biz. So it was a Black Friday deal. which I found over on slickdeals.net, which I certainly recommend taking a peek at if you're, buying some Black Friday stuff. It's not just computers, it's all different things. And I was like, man, this is rocking, because it was the specs on it. And I know specs isn't everything. I've seen some spec'd out computers in my day that sucked. It's like, really? Your computer runs this poorly and it's got all this? Yeah. Got some bottlenecks there, folks. Anyway, I am relatively tech savvy. So if it was a desktop that crapped out on me, I would just rebuild it. Built umpteen desktops. But anyway, it was probably about $1,700-$1,800 that laptop would have retailed for if it had been like an HP. And I got it for like $1,000 and got 4 years out of it. I mean, had to send it in once. And Kevin R. Smith also points out upgradability improves the proposition a lot. That's what I thought. So yes. Tesky Trekkie says 512 is the largest 2-inch standard SSD, they think. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, come on. Even, the big name companies tend to put the cheapest components into their computers. It's a given. So that's why I knew a lot of people back in the day who were like, Dell? I wouldn't buy the Dell. But you gotta be out of your mind. Though now I guess Dell owns Alienware. So there is that. But yeah, I kind of got my eyes set on that Lenovo Legion 5 Slim. So if you would like to help out, I feel so weird doing this. I really do. I mean, you figure I don't sit there and, kickstart stuff to stick around. I don't do Patreon and things like that. But if you would like to lend a hand, you certainly can. Once again, I certainly recommend, if you're going to do that, swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang. And once again, thank you very, very much to all of you out there who made donations of various sizes. I mean, like I said, I was blown away. I really, really was. Because I wasn't expecting anything. I was like, just going to go upstairs and maybe watch a little basketball or something. That's what I had planned. I was like, holy cow. Alrighty. So tonight we are going to dive on in and take a first look at Downfall, Conquest of the Third Reich from GMT Games. But first, I think it's time that we took a brief intermission.
Visit our snack bar and treat yourself to some delicious Castleberry's pit-cooked barbecue sandwiches. Cook the Castleberry way, slowly over open pits of glowing charcoal, then seasoned with a sauce that's zesty, yet delightfully mild to please the entire family. Also at the snack bar, you'll find popcorn and soft drinks and candy and French fries to go with your Castleberry's barbecue sandwiches. There's plenty of time before the movie starts, so visit our snack bar right now for Castleberry's pit-cooked barbecue sandwiches.
Who is the ale man? Who can he be?
Famous sail manufacturer, company president, ale man. A man with a thirst for a manlier brew. Day is done, the race is won. Now hear this, all hands on deck for enjoyment. And that could only mean ale, Ballantine ale. Ballantine, the ale man's ale, bolder, keener, more to the point. The choice of 3 out of 4 ale men among all national brands. Let Valentine make an ale man out of you.
Who is the ale man? He could be you. A man with a thirst for a manlier brew. 3 out of 4 men every time choose the bolder, keener tasting ale. Valentine.
Have some Wilkins coffee?
Well, I say, I'll take some.
Surprising how many people are switching to Wilkins coffee.
A crime has been committed. These detectives have been assigned to the case. Their job, round up the suspects. And that's what you try to do when you play Mattel's new lie detector game. The exciting new game of scientific crime detection. It could be any one of 24 suspects. Question each one. Is he telling the truth? The lie detector says no. Now check the racketeer.
Well, I think it was a guy with a big...
You have one clue. Next, try the school teacher.
I saw him. I'm sure he had a mustache.
True again. Now you know the criminal had a big jaw and a mustache. By eliminating the other suspects, you're ready to make an arrest. And there he is, the playboy. With skill and the lie detector, you become chief of detectives. Mattel's lie detector game is real fun. Get it wherever toys are sold. Remember, you can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Yes, you too can be an ale man or woman. You don't have to be sailing. As Flaming Heron pointed out, if I don't sail, could I also be an ale man? Of course you could. Anyone can be. Yeah, and yes, I'm recycling intermissions because I can't do any editing. So, oh, you know what I meant to point out? If you're wondering why, well, as I mentioned last night, it's going to get really cold here in the Duct Tape Studios pretty shortly. In fact, yesterday it was weird. My hands were cold down here, even though it was like, I don't know, 50 some degrees maybe outside. Anyway, I use DaVinci Resolve, which I think is a phenomenal program. Down here, my graphic card is an AMD. And I don't know what it is. And I didn't know this when I got it. But I figured, okay, so I've got an AMD CPU. I'll get because I had heard, decent things about the video cards from AMD. And you were getting a lot for your money compared to NVIDIA. Well, it turns out AMD does not play well with video rendering. It's really poor with DaVinci Resolve. In fact, depending on the AMD card you might have, it might crash your computer every time you try to render with it. I was like, oh, okay. All right, anyway, enough about that stuff. We're here to take a look at Downfall, Conquest of the Third Reich from GMT Games. Once again, it is designed by the late, great Chad Jensen with John Butterfield. Art and graphic design is provided by Chad Jensen and Mark Simonich. This World War II war game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 6 to 12 hours. Yes, you heard that correctly. And it carries an MSRP of $59. It is available right now. So let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Downfall. So let's get the shrink wrap off. And I do want to point out, my friends over at GMT Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, really important that you know that. So let's take a look at the back here. So as I mentioned, it is for 2 players, 6 to 12 hours, ages 14 and up. It's marked with a complexity of 5 and a solitaire suitability of 4. I gotta be honest, I'm not sure how we get a solitaire suitability of 4, because from my understanding, the way this is designed is that each of the players takes on one of the allied factions and an Axis faction. Pretty wild. Roy says GMT's having a 50% off sale right now. So there is that. Downfall is a 2-player game on the conquest of the Third Reich in World War II. One player controls the Western Allies and the other the Soviet Union in their joint effort to destroy the Axis, though the players compete for a victory that favors their dominance in post-war Europe. To this end, each player controls an Allied and an Axis faction, like I said, and seeks to defeat the Axis on one front while staving off Axis collapse on the other front. The Western player commands the Western faction, led by the United States and the United Kingdom, and also commands the OKH faction, that is the Axis armies battling the Soviet Union. The Soviet player commands the Soviet faction and the OKW faction, that is the Axis armies fighting the Western Allies. Downfall begins at the high water mark of Axis expansion in 1942 and ends in 1945 at Germany's surrender. The players control land units, air units, partisans, fleets, and submarines in this titanic struggle, with both players commanding factions on opposite fronts. Each must launch offenses and conduct desperate defenses. Agent Especial is with us in chat. Good to see you. All right, there's a little bit more there, but we will actually learn about this as we take a peek inside. I will mention I got a couple of GMT titles that arrived today that I had no idea were in transit. I will show you those when we're wrapping up. So we've got a rule book. Let's move this off to the side and we will take a peek at the rules. It says disregard rules marked by naval orange if playing the Overlord scenario. So I was going to say, I think there are going to be various scenarios in here because it says 6 to 12 hours. That would be a pretty wide swing if there's only one scenario here. It says Downfall is played by 4 factions with each player controlling 2 factions. One faction at a time has the initiative, allowing it to conduct an action round. The faction that starts the game with the initiative conducts the first action round. In an action round, the active faction picks an order, pays its initiative cost, and then performs the order. An order may involve, but is not limited to, moving land and naval units, conducting combats, gaining reinforcements, placing partisans, or conducting strategic warfare. During the action round, all factions may have opportunities to play action cards from their hand to gain advantages to the situations specified on each card. So the initiative aspect of this game kind of reminds me of the Chad Jensen design that he did. If I remember right, I thought there were 2 games in the series. And you were leading German forces. And damn, off the top of my head, I don't recall the title of it. Because if I remember right, it was kind of a long title. So just taking a look at the game board, it looks like. So we're getting a breakdown of different areas on the game board. So talking about our objective track, victory track, turn track, our initiative track. So if I remember correctly, if it's similar to that other design, which was not a grand strategy game, it was more on a tactical level, was you had the initiative track, and as each side would take actions, you would mark down the initiative track, and as soon as you passed your opponent, then your opponent got to take actions until they passed you, and then it went back to you. So I wonder if that's how this works with this as well. So we've got our combat units, and it looks as if we have pips on these, almost like a block game, a fog of war block game, where we're probably going to rotate these depending on their strength. We have partisan units, air units, naval units. So it looks like we have naval fleets and submarines. Got order markers, redeploy, attack, redeploy, then attack. Here's setting up, and then here's the initiative. It says each faction's initiative relative to other factions is indicated by the positions of their initiative markers on the initiative track. The faction whose initiative marker is in the lowest numbered space at the start of an action round has the initiative and will conduct that action round. When two or more markers are in the same space, the faction whose marker is on the bottom of the stack has the initiative. So yes, just like the other design. Cool. So our action rounds will update weather, fill the action track, pick and place an order marker, pay the order's initiative cost, perform the selected order, resolve events, if any. Kevin King says a World War II vet described the Italian campaign to him in a little too much detail when he was a kid. Brutal fighting. I think the fighting was probably brutal everywhere. I have heard some stories about the Japanese, boy. Guadalcanal. Yeah, not someplace that anybody would want to be. Tarawa, another one I think was pretty brutal fighting. You know, I've mentioned this previously, probably not for a while though. One thing I always thought was kind of interesting was how people out there, if they don't play war games, they think war gamers are just warmongers and real, and the funny thing is, I find that most people who play war games have a far better understanding of what actually takes place in combat and how they don't want to send it's absolutely necessary, as opposed to just the average person on the street. Kevin R. Smith says his grandfather said that Saving Private Ryan was the only World War II movie that came anywhere close to how nasty actual combat was in that war. So here we've got our land combat procedure. So we declare combatants, I should say, play action cards, calculate combat strengths for the attacker and the defender, determine the combat table column, and roll 2 dice, and you apply hits. So there is step reduction in this game. I think the giveaway was the pips. So we have air superiority, interception checks, sea attacks. There's like quite a bit going on here. I'm kind of curious about the events. So we have resolving events, supply, a new turn procedure, so we have isolation. So we have combat units can be isolated. Isolated 1 or isolated 3 marker if supply can't be traced to the unit when resolving the supply event. Oh, so supply is only through event cards, it looks like. I don't know. It says supply is checked at specific moments during play. In order to assign a reinforcement step to a unit, friendly supply must be traced to the unit's hex. In order to place a new combat unit in a hex or land area, that location must be a friendly supply source. In order to place an air unit, friendly supply must be traced to the placement box. And resolving the supply event card, supply is checked for all combat units that do not have a supply badge. Tessie Trekkie says their grandfather was in Singapore when it fell. It was horrible for him. And also points out that they knew one vet who walked out of Saving Private Ryan. It was a little too real. Man points out that his great uncle fought in the Pacific at Peleliu, and I think that's how it's pronounced. I probably mispronounced it. And Guadalcanal. So we've got our design notes. Cool. Very interesting. Let's see what else we've got. So we have got, it looks like we've got quite a few player aid charts. So a couple of these. So we've got land combat, naval interception, and sea attacks. There's our land combat table. Strength modifiers for attackers, both sides, and defenders. Die roll modifiers. Move costs, zones of control. Okay, so we do have zones of control. Stacking limits, land hex control, air units, supply, showing us the unit categories and types. And then we have partisans. So there is that. Then we also have a couple of order charts here that give us a breakdown of the various different orders that are available to the Western allies, the OKH, the Soviets, as well as the OKW. So we had two of those. We've got some setups. So here we have the OKH faction and event card setup for the campaign game. So those are the various different units. It's like reinforcements, yeah. And then here's the Soviet faction setup for the Husky scenario. OKW setup for the campaign game. And the Western allies and miscellaneous markers for Husky. Here's the Soviets for the campaign game and Overlord. So that's the OKH faction. So we got a lot of these. Western allies for the campaign game. OKW for Overlord. So it's interesting how these are printed so that depending on whatever scenario you're playing, you'll be able to have all of these. It's not, you know, oh, whoops, we got to print it on the back here. Dope. Kevin King says, yeah, now that that generation is about gone, we'll have to do it all again since no one remembers what it was like. And we got the Husky scenario there and Overlord again. So we got all of these. We've got a couple of, yeah, looks like we got, no, three. So we've got 3 punch boards with our counters here. Try to get a little closer look at these. But as you can see, we have the step reduction because it's got the pips. I'll take a guess some of these, when we take a look at the other side, won't have anything on them. They might only be, yep, like these. So these are obviously Soviets. Here are the Axis. And then we have the Western Allies. And I think looks like the Italians. Looks like the Italians here. Interestingly enough, it's not like you're going to have tons and tons of counters, even though we do have 3 punch boards. These are good sized counters. Huh. Interesting. And then we have a multi-part map or game board. Let's get both sides of that out. Got 6-sided dice, some baggies, a couple of decks of cards. We'll take a look at those in just a moment. Let's take a look. I'm going to take a guess that this is going to occupy a good amount of space. So, yep. So it's going to be 4 panels by 2 panels here. So here we've got the orders for these 2 factions here. Objective track. So we've got Cairo, Malta convoys, Algiers, Tripoli, Antwerp, Frankfurt, Munich. Got a track for the siege of Malta. That's pretty wild. I like the board. It's got a nice visual layout to it. So it doesn't look like, you know, your traditional kind of ho-hum sort of shit and like hex and counter sort of war game. So we got the Battle of the Atlantic here. All right, then we got the other side. This is where we're going to get the Soviets and the other Axis faction as far as their orders. I like how it's facing the other way too, so you can play across the table from each other. You'd be surprised how often you'll see board games set up where the game board itself, it hasn't, no one thought about, oh, well, I guess, aren't you sitting across from each other playing this? It's like, what? So we got the Eastern Med. And here we get into the USSR. All right. So let's see what we've got with these decks of cards. So this is where we're going to have our events, and I would think we've got 2 decks in each of these, right? So we should have the Western Allies, the USSR, and then the 2 Axis factions. So these are actions. Okay. Breakdown of the action round, event procedure, new turn, and your initiative costs. Looks like this is giving us information about the weather. So mud, snow, fair. That's kind of interesting. Nice, thick cardstock on these. So here's the events. So not a huge event deck. So that's kind of weird. I would have thought there would have been 2 decks for each of the axis. Maybe not. I guess not. So let's see what we've got here. So these are the Western Allies. I'll move these out of the way so get a little closer look here. Play after any Western or OKW roll. So the roll has to be re-rolled. I'm not going to look at all these, but armored infantry. So you would play that in combat. Polish Free Forces. Allied Force HQ. Says play when you have the initiative before picking a Western Order marker. Perform a free attack order conducting a single attack with an armor unit as the primary attacker. Add 2 to the attack roll if the weather is fair. Okay. Carpet bombing. If neither side has air superiority, the West gains air superiority. Alexander's 18th AG. Bradley's 12th AG Army Group. Cool. Those are kind of cool. All right, Soviets. We have that same fate card. Partisan activity. Landing forces. Play at the start of a Soviet ops order. Relocate 1-step Soviet leg infantry unit to any hex up to 2 hexes away, not occupied by enemy units. That unit can't move, but they may attack during this order. Then remove this card from the game. Winter warfare during snow weather. Done Central Front Conference. Yeah, so these are interesting. Wolf packs, play at the start of your Axis order. Strategic movement. Heavy tanks in combat. So you'd play it in combat with a German armored unit. Army Group Africa. Nice. And we'll take a look at some of these events. King Michael. If Romania is an Axis country and either of Bucharest or Piatski, I know, I never pronounce that damn name right, is controlled by a non-Axis faction, then Romania surrenders, eliminate all Romanian Europe units. Leningrad blockade, High Command, Commando Supremo. Logistical routes. Nice. All right, so we have got the various cards. And of course, let's not forget, we got a cool insert too. So we've got the cards as well as 6-sided dice, some baggies. We've got the 2 sides of the board, 3 punch boards of counters, as well as a bunch of setup sheets, as well as order information and a player aid card for each of the players, as well as the rule book. And that is what we find when we take everything from Downfall Conquest of the Third Reich outside the box. I will hopefully have a review of this at some point in the future. Tessie Trekkie says it can be mind-boggling thinking just how big the Eastern Front was. Millions of men and hundreds of units over thousands of kilometers. You know, there's supposed to be a battlefield in Russia where even to this day, it is just thousands upon thousands of skeletons and like destroyed husks of tanks and things like that. I was like, holy cripes. It's like, man, even now? Wow. So William Aren says, I just put the gaming gang on the TV. It's much clearer picture than on their tablet. Well, well, well. Very nice. Very nice. I was going to say, it should be relatively clear. Now, I know somebody had actually commented on last night's show what happened with the opening, because it's like, hey, 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 happy Tuesday. And then all of a sudden it like skips. That's a YouTube thing. And YouTube's actually been doing more and more of that, where it'll drop seconds of the show. So tonight I actually started off and kind of had the little intro image for about 5 seconds. I don't like to use that, put that up there for very long, because then it's like, really? I got to sit here and stare at that for a few seconds? Thanks a lot, Jeff. Anyway, I did mention I got a couple of items from GMT today. Volume 4 of the Last 100 Yards. This is a good tactical World War II system that is not difficult to wrap your head around either. So this is the Russian front. So we've got that. And then Prime Minister. And I'll be the first to point out, I was not aware of this game. I was like, whoa, wait a second. I guess it's for up to 4 players. Yes, 1 to 4 players vying for political power and prestige during the reign of Queen Victoria. Very cool. Very cool. I'm curious about this. In fact, unless things change radically, maybe we'll take a look at this next Wednesday. Yes. All righty then. Well, it looks like we got the jackass popped in again and had to be banhammered again. Kevin King says, Disraeli and Gladstone sounds exciting. I wonder if that's a little bit of sarcasm in there. Roy says their PC defaulted the resolution to 144. And they bumped it to 1080p. And now, man, maybe I should go back to 144. I don't know. I don't know. I have to be honest. I never have an idea of what the quality is as far as on your end of the stream. So it does look like we were dropping some frames tonight, though. Not a terrible amount, but a little bit. Usually we're like 0 as of late. But once again, Royce is just saying you're so visible now. I don't know what to tell you. I am who I am. There you go. So Kevin King says YouTube glitched for me both last night and tonight. Flaming Heron says YouTube makes it unwatchable. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed that we don't have, gaps. So Flaming Heron says, Jeff, you're a work of art. It's okay. Yes, but unfortunately it's Picasso. Anyway, tomorrow we are going to dive on in and take a first look at the One Ring Tales from the Lone Lands, which arrived in stores yesterday. So William Uren says, I'm waiting for Prime Minister. It's going to be interesting to compare that game to Mr. President, which he has. Oh my gosh. That game is just holy shit. Mr. President. It's like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to dive on into it. Wow. You, as a player, really need to have time on your hands to play that, to get the most of it, I guess. Kevin King says they're going to try to catch tomorrow's show because they are a fan of The One Ring. Very nice. Very cool. All right, that is it for this time out. Of course, if you were watching live, thank you very much. I always appreciate you tuning in to hang out with me. Now, if you were watching live and took part in chat, and you weren't a jackass who had to get banned, bigger tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you keep each other company while I'm going through an unboxing or flipping through an RPG book. So thank you very much. Of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the YouTube channel. Of course, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as tomorrow's review of Warhammer 40K roleplay Imperium Maledictum, which luckily I shot and edited before the crash. Remember, I told you I was going to try to do like a Cubicle 7 week or a Warhammer week here on the Gaming Gang channel. This was the beginning of it. All right. Anyway, so by all means, keep your eyes peeled for this tomorrow. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your course. I hope to see you tomorrow. And until next time, I hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.